discuss DevOps and principles from more senior point of view. My friend Sendil, who is an enterprise architect in London, so going to present with example, with use cases, with more deep explanation. And those who are really new to this community initiative, please feel free to reach out to us. I hope everyone's seen my profile and Sendil profile in LinkedIn. Let's go inside. So we are going to explain and help you to understand what is DevOps, why we need DevOps, where is DevOps applicable, what is needed for DevOps to work, and how do we implement DevOps for any organization level and client examples. So with some of the use cases also we have prepared, and we are going to explain and understand. So also we would like to explain the LinkedIn part. Still, those who joined newly, this is a Sendil profile. So those who really want to have more relationship, please feel free to get in touch with Sendil or myself. My name is Vijay Balakrishnan. I hope everyone aware. So we are all connecting together to create a massive community efforts here. And also, if you have any future queries or any query related or any assistance related, there are two logics we have created. One is LinkedIn group, and in LinkedIn group, you start speak or you can also respond. That is a way you can also uplift your professional profile. And also we are started communicating all our initiatives, events, and more programs in LinkedIn Cloudnloud page. And also we are planning to launch several initiatives in upcoming months. So feel free to engage with us to grow. And those who are really interested as part of this massive community cause, along with our growth, feel free to reach out to Sendil as well as me. We will help you. It's a team effort what we are trying here. So I'm going to hand over to Sendil. Before that, a quick introduction. We have started this Cloudnloud 11 years back, officially registered at 2015. We started giving more focused on the internship and training. And last 6 years, we are also started doing a lot of consultation. So if you have any related expectation, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm just handing over to Sendil. Let me just make him as an organizer. Let's give me some time. Okay, Sendil, you can take over, Sendil.
Oh, thanks, Vijay. Good morning, folks. Good morning, everyone. And I would like to thank you, everyone, for joining this event in a different geographical region. So today we are going to deep dive into this DevOps and DevOps principle. So I would like to share the screen and we'll take it forward from there. So hope everyone able to view my screen. And am I audible?
Yes, Sendil. I think everyone is muted. So please, everyone confirm in the chat whenever we ask. Finally, we open the QA so that you can also share your views. Thanks.
Okay, Vijay. Thanks everyone. So get into this topics. Then today we are going to cover what is DevOps and why do we need DevOps? Where is DevOps is applicable and what is needed for DevOps to work and how do we implement DevOps and client examples. So these are the important terminologies that we picked up. These are catchy lines to make everyone understand how we are going to derive this. So the first, let's get started into this first. Most of you guys aware of it. If not, so he is the father of DevOps, Patrick Debois. He's an independent IT consultant from Belgium who is tossing the name DevOps from his own to make the bridging gap between the projects and operations by using the agile techniques. So agile techniques is one of the framework to improve the performance of agility of the project deliverables in different scopes of domains, irrespective of any domain. It could be a process oriented or project oriented or application oriented. But what he's found is just make the gap why we can add the operations into this feather and we can drive the scope into it. So that's his vision, but he is more success in this way. So in IT term, everybody is calling as IT revolutionist. So he's the one from Belgium who bridging the gap between the projects and operation by using agile techniques in the name of DevOps. So I have give this link if you can go through the process, how he is answering those questions from different aspects. Now, the important strategy before getting into this DevOps, this whole session I would like to represent in process based. You cannot find any codings or you cannot find any integration pipelines creation and showing demo how the code has been built and deployed in different stages between the tools is not the scope over here. So I just clearly mentioned this is the first go. So first of all, you take the mindset, you are all the group of team. Now, as we are the group of team, a number of people are joining. We are the group of team based on this understanding of DevOps framework, how we evolved this framework adopted into this project or process, and how we are going to make fine tuning in terms of different layers. Is a technical deliverables or automation stack, or you are going to improve the performance of the existing workflow. So these are the main picture. So I consider this group as a full team. Now we are going to discuss, first off, we'll discuss what is the framework, and from there, how we take it into this project definition, and from project definition, how we are going to implement into the real scenarios. That's how the first 6 agendas points will be covered. So first we'll get into that, what is DevOps? So DevOps is very collaborative practice framework. DevOps is a collaborative practice framework focusing on process or project experimentation. So what it means, you have a lot of things running in your project. So whether you are not sure about this framework, whether I can improve the framework in this area, or do you want to experiment this particular area to improve the quality of time or reduce the human effort or something, then this framework is mainly adoptable for doing such things. So generally, if someone asked what is DevOps? So DevOps is a collaborative practice framework focusing on process or project experimentation, minimizing efforts, optimizing the speed of deliverables, cost effective and easy deliverables that improves the values for the customer benefit for both development and operational lifecycle. This is the abbreviation of DevOps. It could be vary in every terminology. It's not a predefined structure. It could be vary, but the 5 phase of DevOps is very important. The first one is definition, DevOps principle, DevOps practices, goals, and benefits. This is orchestrated the way the DevOps has been evolved, and based on the number of definitions, if you can find DevOps is a collaborative and cultural frameworks and so on so. But if you want to define it, first what is DevOps is in terms of definition, first point. Second, DevOps principle, and third one is DevOps practice, fourth one is goal, and fifth one is benefit. If you know these 5 phases, you really understand where the DevOps stands for. It's no more related to tools or technical or deliverables, the formations, and what are the agenda of targets. So if you know the process wise, this 5 phases is very important to understand the DevOps concepts. First, we'll take it off definitions. So what do you mean by DevOps definitions? So DevOps definition is a new approach to optimize and manage end-to-end services delivery and operations. It applies a set of principles to transform the entire software delivery lifecycle to introduce a new practice enabled by technology. So this is the definition. There is no changes on definition. If you fixed on this part, then this part has been derived into principles. So what are the principles it's covered of? DevOps principles covered with cultures of shared responsibility and collaboration, end-to-end ownership of services, multidisciplinary teams, incremental value delivery, flow optimization in the delivery process, automate everything, measure of everything, continuous improvement. This page is very important. Why? Because of, if you know the definition, from the definition they derived into these principles, and inside the principles they are going to cover each one of the phases to make the process and project experimentations for your goals. The next one is best practices. Here most people come to know. Most of the people, if you ask about DevOps, they said CI/CD pipeline or continuous integration or continuous deployment or continuous testings and continuous monitoring. So those are the things comes under best practices. So most of the people not aware of definitions and DevOps principle, because when you start up your organization or if you want to start up the incorporating this framework into your existing process, you must know what is definition, what is principle. Based on that, how you can derive this two concept into this best practices. It's all interconnected. If you know the definition and connecting with the principles, based on the principle ideology, then it's born with the benchmark setup towards DevOps practices: continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and continuous operation. This loop you might have been seen most of the DevOps related things. If someone asks what is DevOps, they take this loop. Developers and operations work together in a collaborative lifecycle process and preparing the solution for automation stack or delivering the code for the specific project deliverables, and it makes like a continuous improvement for the specific technologies. But where it depends, this cyclic process depends from DevOps principle, and DevOps principle is born from definition. So these three are very important phases of DevOps. And if you know these three things, what will be the next thing? It's a goal. Now you understand our definitions and you understand the principle. Based on these two areas, if you are going to achieve this best practice, what will be the goal? DevOps' primary goal is to improve the flow of form and idea towards the value for the customer, enabled by an environment in which multidisciplinary teams work collaborative to continuous delivery, high quality solutions in a faster pace, quality of operations. Then the last one is benefits. If you follow this four phases, what will be the benefits? If you use this framework, what could be the end result? Increase the frequency and quality of deployments and release related to packaging or application or any software lifecycle, and improve the innovation and risk taking. So like you have to do the experiment again and again to find the best tuning and best solution for your existing process. Realize faster time to the market, improve solutions quality and operation reliability, improves the mean time to recover. So this is very important. Mean time to recover is like when you do some experiment, when do deploying any code or any functions at the end, then what is the time to recover the issues? For example, if I'm preparing a automation stack, I'm deploying into the production, but the code is not properly set into the production, how quick you restore it back and providing the solution into that. That is called improve the mean time recovery, mean time to recovery. So now you got this ideas, right? So I'll rephrase it. First one is definition, second one is DevOps principle, third one is best practices, DevOps best practices, and fourth one is goal, and fifth one is benefit. Based on this slide, we have to drive all the things in the next 6 phases. So before going to drive the 6 phases, I can give the quick review of the history of DevOps. So DevOps is become the norms in software delivery and is increasingly being adopted and matured across enterprise level nowadays, because becoming the new best practice. Before it was like a IT traditional method, which is called Waterflow model. It's like a developer can build the developing code and it hand over to the tester, and tester will do the test cases, and once the test cases is done, it's hand over to the operation team, and operation team has to deploy and keep monitoring continuously. Based on the outcome of the code, they get the feedback and pass on to the developer. This is the pre-DevOps traditional model. In 2008, the traditional waterflow method is applicable for to improve the performance of IT improvement works. In terms of development, we are losing ground in iterative methods such as Agile. Speed became the goal, which took priority over development and deployment process. In 2008, again, there is a meeting, a conference happened. In that meeting conference, the DevOps day is started. Then Patrick DeBois is the person who start investing the conflict between the dev and ops and the time limits and the gap between these two phases. And slowly he started spinning the coin, the name of DevOps, and it was on to the terminology. And in 2009, the DevOps teams term coined and Andrew Schaff and Patrick meets DevOps Day on 2009. The later at the Velocity conference, the term is picked up. So DevOps is the name, but it's not a technology. It's not an innovative things. It's just a extension of Agile, but only the operation has been added into it. Agile is totally different. Agile has a group of framework where improve the performance of agility and scalability of project deployments and deliverables. But DevOps is the terminology. It's the canonical name added in between the operations. That's it. They are adding the operation at the end and make the framework in this structure. Now, if someone asks what is DevOps means, we can refer the previous slide and we can refer these four things: definition, DevOps principle, DevOps practices, and goal and benefits. Then based on this, they drive this, how it's evolved from 2008 to 2020, how the DevOps has been evolved in different phases and different things, how the company and CEOs adopt this methodology to improve the quality of performance internally. Either it could be the application lifecycle, or it could be the project deliverables, or it could be any kind of things they are trying to implement these solutions. So DevOps, this framework can be tested in any kind of methodology. There is no limitation and there is no frequencies. Okay, this will be sit under this particular IT structure. This will be run only this particular framework. There is nothing like that. It could be tested, experimented, deployed in any kind of form in IT structure. It could be life cycle or manufacturing sector or research field, wherever it may be. But only thing, how it's defined based on its principles and benefits. If you know this two terminology, logically you can identify whether it's applicable in my scope or not. So based on this 2008 till 2020, how enterprise organization is evolved this DevOps framework, and slowly it's increasing from phase to phase. From 2008 to 2011 is the hard time of DevOps because people not accepting the DevOps framework as a practice. But some of the enthusiastic companies and CEOs and CTOs trying to improve the work in terms of agile methodology and infusing this DevOps framework into it and try to revolve the experimental things. From 2015 and 2020, the evaluation of DevOps is vast. So everybody knows about what is DevOps, what is the framework of DevOps. By using this DevOps model, how I can improve my organization projects in a better way, in a short time, high efficiency and quality of outcomes. So that's a quick walkthrough about the history of DevOps over here. And the next one is DevOps practices. This is very important stage. So everybody is talking about CI/CD, CT, and CO. This is a short name like continuous integrations, continuous testings, continuous deliverable, and continuous operations. We can get into the deep dive of continuous integration. This will be like a chain loop. If you see the first page, we are covering definitions, DevOps principle, DevOps practice, goal, and benefits. But what is the key things is drive the DevOps principle, and DevOps practices. The first one is continuous integration. So continuous integration in other way, if I want to do experiment, if I want to make a new applications develop for any purpose, for your business goal or your driven mechanism of your business, if you want to develop, then you have to build the code for application stack. So in that, the continuous integration will be started as a phase. It could be the other term is called planning. So planning, and the planning will be cover up everything in terms of what I'm supposed to do, what are the things it covers, how I'm going to build, what are the application stacks I'm using, how I'm going to develop the solution in this manner. It's like a protocolic way of orchestrating your project plan. So continuous integration is a streamline of internal development by integrating code into the shared repository and several times a day. Each check is then verified by automated build, allowing teams to detect problems early in the cycle. So the developer can develop the code and they have keep the code into the single repository to ensure that what could be the code has been developed for. So that is the first layer, and that will be integrated with continuous integration part. The next one, once the code is ready to integrate, the testing team has to be involved and they have to do the continuous testing. So what is continuous testing? Continuous testing is the process of automating and integrating tests into the software delivery chain and automatically executing those tests again each build of the code bases. So these two are very important phase from the development point of view. So the best practices, as they mentioned in DevOps, continuous integration and continuous testing. Now you keep the experimental things here, what's need to be integrated, what needs to be tested. So you can find the results in other way around. If I want to develop a Java application, or if I want to develop the Android application, or if I want to build a code for code in Python or something for any web application. Now I keep this as an experimental and I follow the instruction from the continuous integration what it says. I keep this in a central repository and spinning the work towards the testing team to check whether every code is okay, every phase is okay, every time how the continuous testing is observing the details where they're referring the details from the repositories. So this is the development side. From the operation side, the two main practices is continuous delivery and continuous operation. So what is continuous delivery? Continuous delivery is the process of delivering code that is production ready and is kept an always reusable state so it can be deployed automatically to production at any given timeline and business needs. So continuous delivery is like it's a chain where when the developer develop the code and they keep on uploading into the repo and tester automatically fetch the information from the repo and is doing the testing continuously. Once the testing is done, it push towards operation and operation has to continually receiving that information from the code level and is pushing towards the delivery process. Once continuous delivery is done, after delivery, they have to do the continuous operation. So continuous operation is the proactive managing the solution based on feedback, monitoring and telemetry become part of the backlogs. So where you can find the issues once the code has been deployed, the operation team is the main key player. They are the one who find the backlogs and they are the one who can see where it resides, how it works, whether it's successfully deployed or not. If successfully deployed means what is the level of achievement and where the logs has been identified. So these are the important tasks taken care by the operation side. But in a general way, the DevOps practice covered these four important phases: continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and continuous operation. So always keep these two things. One is principles of DevOps and best practices, and followed with that, you need to derive the project requirements. So the next one is why do we need DevOps? So why do we need DevOps in the sense is there is a need from the existing structure. There is a two different structure in IT traditional function that will be separated in two different phase. One is development phase, one is operation phase. If the business is at the center, it could be anything. If the business has two phases, one is request feature, what to develop for the goals for their business, and what is the demand stability it requires to achieve it. If the two things is in a separate phase, what are the features, things they are challenging, they are facing into that? The first development side, what are the things they have showcased? Focus solely on development activities. Operation requirements are unclear between environments, making the handover circumstance. Operation feedback is only retrieved after completing a release. After releasing, developers are no longer involved. So these are the limitations from the development sides. And if you take the operation side, focus solely on operation activities. Operation requirements are unclear. Adapt changes to the environment. Operations understanding and experience is gained only when app is released. Operations managed and control software within the scope. So these two different things, if you understand these two different layers, the functional part, what is the business over here, how long it takes to achieve this. So the request features and demand stability, if the two are two different phase, then the time delay happen between these two things and it will be take a longer much period to achieve the requirements. To avoid this, the concept has been increased in terms of DevOps. If you merge these two teams, there's a collaborative framework based on the DevOps framework, then how those things get speed up. That's what Patrick Boyce has done. So DevOps unifies the mindset of development and operation. So today's business, the release and demand management within the DevOps, both functional and continuous collaborative to align a business demands within the software delivery life cycle. So as you could see, the business will be the center and request feature and demand stability is merged, and what could be the developments and operations can do. There is no gap in between the time delay process and follow up with the things where the lacking of communications. So from the development side, if the DevOps culture emphasizes a common goal over the whole value delivery chain, so they can, everyone is synced up with the process. Everyone knows what developer is doing and what they're developing the codes, how the testers has been tested, and where they place the code into the repositories. And from the operations level, how the operations has received the code and making the pipeline builds, and based on the pipeline builds, how the project has been delivered. So these are the two phases discussing in the same phase, same locations. Then there is no gap between the analysis part. So all the members understand the change and responsible and accountable as a whole and trust each other to deliver. And the next one is the DevOps technical embrace CI/CD to automate the broken delivery funnel. So there is no time gap between follow-up developers to operations, operations to developers and testers. It's all in the same phase. They can integrate all together in the same discussion group. From the operation side, what will be the best part? The end-to-end management and traceability of software delivery during the development or issue solving, it should be transparent. So whatever they are doing, developer can view, but only challenging bit, developer didn't have access to the environments. They have access only on the code level and the repository level. Once the code has been loaded into this repository, the rest will be taken care by the orchestration and the deployment taken care by the process, and the operation is going to be monitoring the things. Once this has been developed over the go, then it could be formed as IT governance and make sure what are the steps to be followed and developing the solution to align with this kind of framework that is called IT governance. IT governance is embedded within the software development and best practices and based on the repetition of experimental things with the development and operation to orchestrate the framework to delivering the application or improving the process or improving the functions. Then each time whenever the best practices comes in a good results, they make it as a note and they make it in the IT governance. Integrating and software testing is one of the key thing, and this will be approach to validate the code quality and early in the process. So to avoid the gap between these two phases in the normal IT traditional way, so the DevOps frame is a collaborative frame which helps to discuss in on demand on required things to in a live phase and make the best practices to be applicable on it. So we just finished this basic things. So I'll just go back in the first part: definition, DevOps principle, DevOps practices, and benefits. So DevOps principle, where we are going to implement this DevOps principle and how we are going to derive this DevOps principle into these practices. So that's how we are going to see the next one, where DevOps is applicable. So DevOps is now where the DevOps is applicable in the sense, now you know the definition of DevOps and you know the definition of the principles of DevOps and best practices. Now based on this, how I define in my organization or in my project to make whether it's applicable for me or not. It's a big question for everyone in the organization. For that, there is indicators is there. In the indicators, it has list of tools like product type, change willingness, business uncertainty, delivery process, change rate, team composition, leadership style. So these are all the indicators. These indicators as the consolidate, so many indicators available in the market, like based on different product, different business driven mechanism is available. But these are the common things which is consolidate over here. First, if you take this indicator as the central point and you can check based on the DevOps principle and best practices and based on the continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deliverable, continuous monitoring, where it applicable and where it is not applicable. If you make the differentiate from here, you can get a clear idea about whether it's incorporated in our business or not, instead of doing a trial and error method, or doing a framework designing stuff, or aligning the existing policy of the company. If you do the simple mechanism, this indicators to helps to determine if the DevOps is applicable for your organization or not. So first one is product type. We'll go from bottom to top. So product type, if you take the product type, it could be any product from your company. If you start up based on web application, or based on any business driven based, it's like a materialistic, retailing, banking, or anything. So that comes in the product type. For this product type, it's not defined by DevOps. Inside the product type, there is a software life cycle. Take the software life cycle area only. From that type, you can check whether it's applicable or not. So if it is applicable, means what are the things that comes into the mind? Product is a software that could be delivered as a service. This is the point need to be fulfilled. And the other side, DevOps is not applicable means products are not tangible, typically consisting of semi-finished product provisioned by multiple partners that don't have a direct relationship with each other. If you have this kind of phase, then you can identify whether this DevOps scope is applicable or not. And change willingness. So what is change willingness? People have a great affinity with software and technology, or not change verse. That means you should not change the application very frequently. And the other side, DevOps is not applicable. People have no affinity for new technologies or change averse. So likewise, you have product type, change willingness, business uncertainty, deliverable process, change rate, team composition, and leadership style. If you compare this indicators, and you will get the results. You already know best practices, you already know principles, and you know how DevOps works. Is a collaborative framework in a lifecycle process, application lifecycle process. Now, these are the key indicators which you can infuse in your existing organization or your project, whether it's applicable or not. Based on these slides, you can come to know 20 to 30% of things whether DevOps is feasible to do or not for your existing projects. So what is the need for DevOps to work? So from here onwards, it's very important topic. So previous things we just covered about DevOps definition, principle, best practices, and followed with that evaluation of DevOps. And then we are discussing about the best practices of 4 stages. And based on that, we will compare with the indicators. Now you have a fair idea about, okay, if my organization is ready to adopt DevOps, in the sense, what is your first things is coming to your mind. So what is the needed for DevOps to work? So the main key structure DevOps to work, the operating system model, structure along with people, process, and technology. These are the 3 key areas where this process is sit and drive your existing function to make the platform designing for end-to-end automation stack, or application stack, or application development, or lifecycle management services according to your business thing. So keep your business operating system model at the center, and it demands 3 phases. First one is process, second one is technology, third one is people. Now we'll take the process first. So process, what do you mean by process? So process is the standard interconnected things which make the software development lifecycle. You have to define the process in terms of continuous everything: integration, delivery, testing, monitoring, release management, and planning. Continuous integration and continuous delivery are the keys to build quality into DevOps process. Establishing interconnected process across all phases of development and operations for consistent and predictable deployments. So process in other way, this is the terminology of DevOps. In other way, process means you have to define what needs to be tasked, like it's a step of task, how we are going to process this. It's a defined protocolic structure, how we are going to drive these things. And if you take the technology, second, technology is the area, what are the tools is required to drive the process. So process and technology are very closely connected. If you define the process, based on the process, you are choosing the technologies. So technology in the sense, improved toolset to support the delivery and automation of the process, specifically to the accelerate software delivery activities, such as containers, or if you want to select the infrastructure blocks and select the leverages and vast DevOps tooling landscapes, automation process, support continuous integration and continuous deliverables, and it could be identify the tools where the tools has been implemented, how it works for my business case, for this process, and how I'm going to choose these tools, whether it's open source or it's a license based, and if I use this tool, what will be the outcome. So that will becomes all into the technology part. And people is the key source. People establishing the DevOps organization and culture with the cross-functional teams that are open and trustful. T-shaped employees is the tool which is used to identify the knowledge of each segment, and once this defined, and it will be processed to the continuous learning and development to build cross-functional capabilities, and it transforms the leadership balance metrics and the DevOps culture. Open, transparent communications enable feedback and short-term life cycle process. So operating system is the main thing. If you keep the operating system at the center and you can connect these three phases, process, technology, and people. Now, where is DevOps framework is into the phase? That's the next question. So DevOps, you know about the collaborative work and you have best practices and principles. Now you need to derive this from these two phases based on this model. And this model is very important to drive. And you already know about your company is eligible to do the DevOps framework because of you already checked with the indicators. Now the next stage is we are going to drive the DevOps project into the team. For that, we need the three phases: process, technology, people, and the operating model. The next one is we are going to take one component from that is people. So this is very important. Here only the DevOps principle is directly influencing in terms of their attributes. The first one is continuous improvement. So continuous improvement is the name which is directly influencing this area. The team, if you are managing the team organize retrospective, automated feedback loops and touch points with the business in order to continuous improvement their deliverables and way of working. So this is one of the DevOps principle. The next principle, measurement of everything. So everything is monitored and measured by a balanced metric system, focus on speed and stability of the service delivery. And third one, automate everything. Tools automate as many tasks and process steps as possible in the delivery process to drastically reduce time, effort, and risk of human errors. And flow optimization in the delivery process. Eliminations of waste, shift left, and limit work in progress. Optimize the flow in delivery process. Team set as early and often as possible. Minimize handoff and maximum checkpoints to reduce dependencies and risk. So this DevOps principles connecting with each things implement implications of organization and culture. So this is the first key structure will be drive the DevOps way of working, have extensively implementing your cultural workforce. This principle define the people and the structure, how it will be formed into the same segments. The next one is the DevOps principle or the starting point for the organization structure. As I said, the DevOps principle, I'll keep it over here. From this DevOps principle, I'm driving into this people structure. So what kind of mindset or skill set is required to align product and service, product owner, cross-functional DevOps team, common core services, tech lead, functional communities of practices, solution architect. So these are the key areas. These are the key people who is involving to orchestrate to form the DevOps principle, and they are representing the DevOps principle behalf of, and they are trying to form the team. First, we'll take the product service. Product service is a multidisciplinary team or aligned to a particular service. For example, if I want to take an application to be built or developed or researched, now everything is done. DevOps practice is there. DevOps principle is there. Now for that, I'm trying to articulate, okay, these are the subdivisions of DevOps principle. You should know product and service. So I'm keeping this product and service at the center, and I'm for this product and service, who are responsible to take control of it, the expertise. Then this product and service is the key area. The multidisciplinary teams has to be collaborated in the first phase. And product owner. So product owner, the fixed business resource empowered to shape and direct the development of the product in a way that maximizes the business value. So he is the person who is giving the value, what needs to be done, what's the problem is there, how we can develop this solution, or how we improvise the existing workflow into the better way. So those are the things that comes from product owner way. So we have the team is built from the product and service, and we have a product owner to give the inputs from what needs to be done. And third one is cross-functional DevOps team. So cross-functional DevOps team is a long-standing and fully allocated cross-functional team that is the end-to-end responsible. It doesn't matter like testers, developers, or operations. It's all cross-functional DevOps teams. It's concluding of everyone. And common core services. So common core services are shared services provided preferably through self-service portal by team of technology organized to the used and different DevOps teams. So if you manage these four areas in one side in a service A, and the service B would be like they are the one who managing the team scope in terms of tech lead, functional communities of practices, and solution architect. In a general, how it works. Okay, I have a DevOps principles in one hand, I have the project alignment in one hand. How it's going to be work? These are the important aspects to be considered. If you want to service A in the sense service and products, product and service, product owner, cross-functional DevOps team, common core services. This is one layer. And the service B, tech lead, functional communities of practices, and solution architect. So these are the phase where you need to incorporate. You can divide the team and you can align the resources according to that. So product owner, one team, cross-functional DevOps team. It could be a testers, developers, and automation engineers. Everything will be comes under in that phase. Common core services. It could be a self-centric project-based or shared service or external services as well. To control this, the service B will be functional cops. These are all functional cops. Tech lead, who is managing these four areas to observe and monitoring what the scope of work, how we are going to deliver, and how we receive the details from the product owner, whether the cross-functional team has completely understand the scope or not. So someone has to take control to steering this process. For that, tech lead, functional communities of practices will be incorporated, and the solution architect is a member who is make the governance. So to make the continuous experimentation or continuous improving the structure for any kind of operating system model, then solution architect is a product member who governs the architectural design for this scope, and they will start as the benchmark. So here the plan has been started. First, it starts with people, where the people has been collected. This people has been organized with the referencing of DevOps principles. So what is DevOps principle? You can see the DevOps principle starts with cultures of shared responsibility and collaboration, end-to-end ownership of service, multidisciplinary team, incremental value delivery, flow optimization in delivery process, automate everything, measure of everything, continuous improvement. So this principle split into small projects split into the group of projects. That group of projects named as product service, product owner, cross-functional DevOps team, common core services, tech lead, functional communities of practices, solution architects. So now you got a fair idea about how the people has been formulated in DevOps framework. Okay. The next one is the key DevOps roles and responsibility. The several keys and roles should be represented in the cross-functional DevOps team. A team member, a T-shaped profile can fulfill more than one role. Now you have in the previous thing, DevOps principle drive this small group of project. Now we make the projects module. Inside the module, I have to fill the requirements. Now service A and service B is there, functional cops will be there. What is the roles and responsibility for each one of them, how it will be derived for my business goal. So for that, the list of other expansion from the service B, it starts with business analyst, infrastructure engineer, scrum master, operations specialist, test engineer, DevOps engineer. So now the team has been formed. Business analyst, their role. What is the role for business analyst? And what is the role for infrastructure engineer? What is the role for scrum master? And what is the role for operations specialist? And what is the role for test engineer? And what is the role for DevOps engineer? It will be very hard to understand this two phase. What I mentioned over here, based on the DevOps principle, I make the module like product and service, product owner, cross-functional DevOps team, common core services, tech lead, functional communities of practices, solution architect. These are the people who define to make the operating model. This is the first phase of understanding the scope. What is the business requirement? So what are the product and service? This is the planning phase. You take it as this as a planning phase. This planning phase derived for the people, and these people has followed the instruction from the root of DevOps principle. Once they understand the planning phase, if they understand the application core, what need to be done, that will be hand over to the next team. So this is the key stakeholders. These stakeholders has the group of projects that you can work like agile methodology. At the moment, if you're working in a project in DevOps, you could see the Scrum Master will be there, business analyst will be there, DevOps engineers will be there, test engineers, operations specialist, and Scrum Master. In this structure, architect will no longer involved, but he's been overviewed. And in this structure, product is no longer involved, but they can overview. But here, the initial phase of planning, the starting point of DevOps principle is derived to the people, and the people has made into this module from the planning structure. Once the planning is done, the next one is building. In the building structure, who are the key stakeholders to build the plan? Business analyst, infrastructure engineer, Scrum Master, operations specialist, test engineer, and DevOps engineer. So these are the functional corps who is eligible to do the respective operations according to the plan of business. Now we see the operation model at the center, and the first one is we cover up with process, technology, people. From the people side, how the DevOps principle is elevated and how the principles has been defined. From the principle, how the projects has been changed into modules. From the modules, how the projects has been taken into the requirements. So these are the areas we need to cover in the DevOps things under the people. So different team topology, this is one of the important aspects. So no one sizing fit all approaches, because a DevOps team has different knowledge skill set. They are not doing end-to-end things. DevOps engineers cannot be performed from start to end code development to deliverables, because it requires the DevOps team's approach and cross-minded skills, and you have a team organization setup. So DevOps setup has first one is DevOps team with an expiry date. So like how they form this fusion: DevOps setup, team topology, when to use. So this three hierarchy can help us to define, okay, there is a timeline for each thing to make time understanding of each phases, and each phases everyone has to be collaborate, and each collaboration with their skill set, and they have the timelines to achieve this team topology. So the first one is DevOps team with an expiry date. Temporarily set up DevOps team as a separate entity to the existing dev and operation team. Now we have two different teams, and we are trying to merge the team. For that, we will make some sort of trial and error. Okay, DevOps team, I want to make this two team. They are continuously working their existing project deliverables, but I want to make them to be work together. So this is the first step. DevOps team with an expiry date. Okay, do trial and error, work close together for a week of time, or 2 weeks of time, or a month of time. So if you use this team topology, what could be the benefit? You can understand how frequency and what are the frictionless things, how the work has been delivered. As an organization's pilot batches, what does the DevOps estate should look like? So these are all slowly evolving. So team topology and team merging is not that much easy in the real-time factor. So you need to understand what they are doing and how they are doing in two different mindset, two different skill set. If you want to fusion them, you cannot do within a day or week. You have to merge slowly with the team topologies methodologies. So once you know the idea of team topology, the dev and op collaborations will start slowly. It enables the collaborations between the dev and ops through common vision and shared responsibility. Create the common vision and ask them to work for the single vision. Then team will slowly merge together. Developers start developing the code one side, and operation is deploying in the other side. So this will be the initial pickup. This pickup is representing the previous plan. Like if the product owner give the business to the business analyst, and business analyst drive the components. Okay, this is what we are going to achieve. And once business analyst reviewed, it hand over to the scrum master. Scrum master is preparing the plan for the sprints, and each sprint what needs to be done in terms of Jira board. They have to create the logs, and everyone is involving into that. DevOps engineers, infrastructure engineers, testers, operations specialists involving into the board and pick up the respective tasks, and they are working together. So that is called team topology. So initially they will give the scope in the planning phase. Once the planning phase is defined and it moves into the test experimental phase. During the experimental phase, the team collaboration topology will be infused. So in that phase, if we develop the application, then who involved? Developer develop the application code for the particular application, and operations is monitoring into that. Okay, what they are doing, how they are working. Once they initiate the code, once they deploy the code into the Git repo, how we are going to integrate into this deliverable process. This is the challenging bit for operations side. So they cannot wait until the code has been developed and hand over to them. They closely monitoring how the code has been developed in the starting stage itself. So the third one is fully sharped ops responsibility. So first one is DevOps team with an expiry date. Second one is Dev and Ops collaboration, and third one is fully sharped ops responsibility. What it mean? Work best for organization within a single main product or a service. So now we take one application, we develop the application, and there is no visibility kind of thing. Everyone can view what is the phase and what they are developing and what code they are building. Operation can understand, and once the code has been handed over to the operation, and developer can also view what operation is doing in terms of how they build the code, how they orchestrate the connectivity of CI/CD, and how they're delivering code and where it resides. The end-to-end cycle has been fully sharpened and responsible to view in each phases. And fourth one is DevOps as an external service. So DevOps team supporting smaller dev teams and the organization with limited operations issues, and DevOps team focused on supporting dev teams in operation domains. For example, if both are having some issues in terms of connectivity, code issues, or some repo issues, they will support within the team itself. So that is the service plan which is involved in this team topology. And the fifth one is ops infrastructure as service. So infrastructure operation fully covered the self-service model consumed by the DevOps team. Like team topology is the shape of team topology is like partially government by operations, and they partially connecting with the support team, and they will give the solution for those areas where the problem has been arrived. And the sixth one is DevOps evangelist team. So the team setups facilities communications between dev and operations team while keeping the majority of existing team support. So this phase is very common, and you can see the current project, how the developers and operation working for the single application code development, and they will continuously monitoring for the deployment phase. Before doing the deployment phase, you have built the code in dev environment, and once the dev environment is built, then they reviewed all the scopes into this phase. And the seventh one is separate responsibility for regulating industries. The separate responsibility for dev and ops team in order to provide the audible trials. For example, they do the test cases from their end in terms of code build, code development, one code deployment, and connection build and connection test and connection deployment from the operation side. So this is the team topology. This team topology is mainly used to identify the metrics, how the team work together, and how you can define whether it's going forward. There is no conflict between these two teams in terms of technical clash or connection clash or support service clash or something. So this will give development team and DevOps team and operation teams in the different things. They were merged into this collaborative method. So if you refer this from the DevOps principle, we have a planning, and based on this planning, people will be defined in service A and service B, and based on this planning, the service has been integrated to the key stakeholders such as business analyst, infrastructure engineer, scrum master, operation specialist, and test engineer. Now everyone knows about what is the plan to be developed, and for that we are doing the topology metrics between the DevOps and operation. So these are the topology metrics, how we set up the topology metrics from the initial phase to the testing phases. So the next one, T-shaped profiles. So these are the models we have to identify the topology things in terms of identifying how the teams can be fusion, how they are delivering the process from one phase to another, or developing the solution for the planned applications. But T-shaped profiles is the best practices to understand the knowledge areas and skill set. Now I have a business analyst, I have architect, program, and continuous deliverable infrastructure engineer, test engineers, and everyone is there. But I want to matrix how the skill set will be. So this T-shaped skill set is very helpful for you to define what level of knowledge they have and whether we need to train them, or if someone is expert is already available, we can utilize them to make the projects has to be roll out. So level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. So these are the areas where you can find the potential skill set where need to be collaboratively connected into both development and operation side. So ideally, DevOps team members have T-shaped profile. Team have combined of different profiles covering all knowledge and skills areas. So it's like a very difficult to organize this one. And in that part, I have to demand. I want 5 DevOps engineers. So what level of DevOps engineers do you need? The first one is I need test engineers, automation testers, manual testers. What is the number for them? And what level of expertise is required. So when the plan is executed in a short span of time, the skill set is demands according to the project plan. For that, the T-shaped profile mapping is helpful for the team to identify how many members are here, and in that how many years or how many technical expertise are there to frame it, and what are the requirements to fulfill to make the leveling. Okay, level 1, how many people are knows about it? There is no knowledge about this process, they will put it as level 1. And level 2, competent in the sense still limited with the situational perceptions, knows aspects, guidelines, and treat all attributes and aspects separately and yet equally. And level 3 is a proficient. So those are the list comes under all areas, whether they can do prioritized actions and seen partially is no longer goes, and planning standardized procedures. They know what exactly supposed to do. Level 4, expert. Expert level is all about they are expert in terms of creating the scope and executing the process and delivering the modules. Level 5 is a master. They are very much pointed into that stacks, and they know how to execute, they know how to form the team, and they know how to give the trainings for the skill set and make the project to be delivered on time. So T-shaped profile is the method to follow to identify the skill set for each areas from operation sites to development sites and testing sites as well. So this method will mainly use to identify the resource capacity planning plus skill set measuring things. And factors influencing DevOps organization design. Now, where we are at the moment, we know what is DevOps framework, definitions, principle, best practices, and these are the model evaluating business model. That business model revolves around with people, process, and technology. Now we are discussing so far with only people. So how the people has been derived from the DevOps principle. So DevOps principle orchestrate in the form of product, service, and product owner and other attributes. Based on that, the planning structure has been defined. Based on the planning structure, we are going to deliver the scope of application development or experimentation in the name of business analyst, infrastructure engineer, scrum master, and operations specialist. Now the team has been formed, the module has been formed. Inside the team members, we need to identify the skill set. So for that, we are trying to make the fusion of topology, team topology. And once the team topology is ready, we need to identify the skill set for each one of them. So based on this matrix, now the expertise level has been formed one team, and level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1 has been organized. So now team is ready to build the solution for the application stack or lifecycle software lifecycle management. The factor influencing DevOps organization design is very theoretical based. So the factors mainly it comes under regulatory requirements, existing organization structure, architecture, resource capacity, source modeling, product varieties, business needs, process and technology heterogeneity, regulatory requirements. So this is the spinning things which is fully focused on client specification factors to be taken into account for DevOps organization design. Now, how it will be projected in real time? I have a team, pilot team, it's a DevOps team. We have developers, we have testers, and we have operation specialists in different tools. It's readily available. Now, based on these 3 stacks, we need to focus what is the client requirement and what is the agenda of that requirement, how we can set up or how we can fulfill the requirements to existing process in terms of using the capacity resources. So DevOps organization design is client specific. Setting up the DevOps teams or entire DevOps organization require understanding of existing but also future organization structure. So it depends in a different hierarchy. Like if the company has its own policy structure. The companies are owned a different frame of structure. Now I form the DevOps team based on the DevOps framework, based on the best practices and principle and the topologies. And now I want to compare with this team with the existing company requirements, the organization requirement, client requirement. For that, the best way of comparison, what are the scope that it covers in terms of regulatory requirements, existing organization structure, architecture, resource capacity, source modeling, product varieties, business need, process and technology. Now you have this many phases from the company point of view. Can cover this all into this existing topology what we defined over here in DevOps. So this is just a understanding. Okay, what is a client is required for this requirement, how we are going to achieve this. So that is the factor influencing measurements. So factor influencing measurements is in the DevOps organization design is the key area. You developed everything, but if the factor influence is not up to the mark, then the formation of team effort will be completely collapsed. To avoid that, the DevOps theory does not always applicable to practice in all the aspects in terms of regulatory requirements, existing organization structure, architecture, resource capacity, and source modeling. You can drive this in a specific model in application lifecycle management, or it can be compared with one at a time. So like that, it will be compared and you can see what is the factor influencing. If the influencing is good enough, then you can continue the design work. If it is not very hard to understand these two phases, then you need to reorchestrate your existing structure based on the DevOps principle. Now we are going to cover up process. So as you can see, two process. The first one is IT traditional model. So in this process, the old method, how it will be, the developer has to define the process and it pass on to the design, and design has to be developed. And once the development is done, it pass on to the test, and the test will implicate to the development, continuous testing and continuous development, and the development is passed on to the release deployment and operations and retire. So DevOps model is significantly different from IT traditional model. So DevOps integration is how it's look like. So DevOps model has a plan. This plan, where I have mentioned, is derived from the people, from the DevOps principle. Once the plan has been derived, from the plan, the product owner, product and service, infrastructure engineer, architect will be there. And once the plan has been defined, it passes on to the next team like Scrum Master, business analyst, operation, and DevOps engineers. Everybody is there in the team. So this plan has been triggered and make the 4 best practices. Now they are revolving these 2 source and they integrating into 4 best practices of DevOps: continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and continuous operation. And then it retired. In the previous IT traditional method, how it's look like, it starts with define the process, design the process, develop the process, and then test the things and pass on to the release and deploy and operation and retired. So this is the time taken where the gap has been come over here from the development to operations. So the time taken is very more in IT traditional model. What are the implications that they are facing? The implication is straightforward sequential process, assuming all is known, big chunk of work, maximize each process step, big bang delivery, many spread functions, and specialized in I-shaped role. I-shaped role means it's self-centric. You can app team work on their scope, operation team work on their own scope. There is no collaborative things between these two in IT traditional model. So if you select the DevOps model, what is the implications? The complex iterative process to manage unknown, small chunks of work, maximize flow, incremental delivery, fewer handoff, generalized T-shaped roles, more flexible to adapt to change. So this process where we are derived from the principles of DevOps to people, and the people has been making a model, and the people model has been delivered into the plan. The plan will be integrated into its 4 deliverables of capacities. So this is the difference of target state DevOps model at the moment. The next one is DevOps leverages technologies to automate the software delivery process. In this case, what are the three main components that we are taken? First one is software delivery process, DevOps practice, and the CI/CD pipeline. So software delivery process, what is the phase of software delivery process? It consists of ideations, requirements and design, source developed, build, test, release, deploy, operate and monitoring. So the phases from source to monitoring, it comes under DevOps. The first two phases is come from agile development, like ideations and requirement design is like planning and designing and developing. From the development to monitoring, this phase is comes under DevOps. Though this is the extension of agile towards DevOps, but agile is not equal to DevOps. DevOps is just a process of framework with the collaborative framework, and it has the principles, it has the definitions, and it has a best practice that will be incorporated with the agile ideologies to make the agility for the software lifecycle process. So DevOps practice, now you can see DevOps extended the agile process and puts emphasis on the software delivery lifecycle and operation. And it has continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deliverables, continuous operations. So the timelines between these two phases will be reduced at the maximum. It's a practice of focus on bridging the stage gate gaps between phases to accelerate throughput by promoting more frequency with a smaller product. So if you have this kind of structure, then the time taken process is reduced and the solutioning for each issues has been fixed then and there, and the output of the quality will be improved more for any kind of application lifecycle. And the CI/CD pipeline where the important roles to play to automate almost everything. And automate, how to automate, that's the other way of question around. So if you go to answering about how to automate everything, first we need to formulate the line segments, like automate almost everything is the first thing. And done means release, what are the releases supposed to be formed, everything in version control, build quality into the process. So these are the four important aspects to manage the CI/CD pipeline. So if you want to create a framework, DevOps framework, you must know DevOps principle. If you know the DevOps principle, you can derive the DevOps principle into the people. And once the people has been make the module, then the module has been executed for the planning phases of application development. Likewise, if you want to technical formations like delivering the code, continuous integration, continuous deployment, what is the best practices you need to identify, automate everything, and the releases should be formulated, everything should be version controlled, builds the quality into the process. So if you follow this four to reduce the thing in terms of this is the little small governance for CI/CD pipeline. You should referencing this and you have to follow the governance structure, how to build CI/CD pipeline and integrating that into the process to the technologies. The next one is technology. So we covered people and process. Process is just very simple phase that we are implementing the DevOps best practices as process over here. And for building the CI/CD pipeline, you have referencing the 4 key points. And once you make the stack is ready, now we are going to review the technology. So technology is the vast area. So technology is like the list of application which helps, or the tools which helps to drive, automate or semi-automate or deploying all the segments. If you take a simple example of deploying code, then by default the classic method they said git from Jenkins to Docker, and Docker to Nexus, from Nexus to Spinnaker, and Spinnaker to Helm, and Helm to Kubernetes. So this one kind of orchestration, how it made, who defined this, and why the tools has been chosen. So these are the layers. It's very defined in tools. So there is a lot of tools available for DevOps framework. DevOps framework is different. Lot of tools is available for automation things from the development side as well as the operation side. We need to choose the right tool for the development to develop the code. We need to choose the right tool for the automation tools, and we need to choose the right tool for testing. So this area is mainly focused to do a brainstorming of what tool I supposed to choose for my application development or microservice management. So DevOps is a tool intensive practice. It has a volume, heavy volume of understanding. So if you say Kubernetes, everyone knows about how Kubernetes functional it's all about. What is the purpose of Kubernetes? What is the purpose of Docker? But what is the layer it works in terms of DevOps? It falls under development layer, it falls under operation layer, we don't know. But why we choose this layer? Who have more authority to access those tools? If operation side, they are using more tools, authorized to access more tools like Kubernetes, Docker, or Jenkins, then jobs has been triggered from Jenkins towards Kubernetes, then this layer has been orchestrated with reference of what. So that's why the tools and technology is in place. The volume of amount of tools available and delivering one or multiple capabilities bring consequences when transforming towards the DevOps organization. Even tools and technology also have the governance principle for under DevOps. We cannot choose all the tools to develop the applications. We cannot choose open source tools for all the application deliverables. So we have to follow some sort of technology based governancing over the DevOps practice. So patterns to set up CI/CD pipeline. So we have three options applicable to measure the technology and tool set. There is three options: best of suit, hybrid, and best of breed. So best of suit is the standard methodology because by using DevOps framework, by using DevOps principle, we form the team, we form the deliverable plan. Based on that plan, we make the topologies infused and the DevOps and operations are in line. Once these people are measured with the T-shaped metrics, and now everything is prepared for the process. Now process is defined. Based on the process, we need to choose the right tools. For that tools, we do the experimentations, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous monitoring. Based on this best practices, we try to do experiment in different tools. How the tools has been identified for this kind of application lifecycle. For if I'm going to deliver application development for Java or anything, how I choose this tool based on this DevOps framework best practices, we do the experimentation, we change the tools, we change the functions, and we do multiple times of trial and error. When we do this continuous, and we'll find out what is the maximum time taken to deliver this code in this orchestration methodology. For example, Git, Jenkins, Docker, Nexus, Spinnaker, and Kubernetes. How we define this orchestration, how the tools has been defined over here in the sense, these tools are being processed with the DevOps best practices like continuous integration, continuous deployment methodology to identify which tools perform at the best. So for based on that hierarchy, they are giving the three important stage of things like best of suit, hybrid, and best of breed. Best of suit, if you take what is meant by best of suit, you can incorporate all the tools in it. You don't have any shared resources for the external source. You don't need to incorporate any additional tools in it. So advantage of best of suit is like control one central place and manage users and applications. User experience on smaller similar interfaces for pipelines. One integration platform is done. It execute in the same way at the end. There is no stop. There is no interference in between this chain. What is the disadvantage? If something is broken in between this chain, then you need to fix it. After fixing only, it start working on it. There is no backup for this best of suit plan. Hybrid plan. Hybrid is best of both world, like quality cascade, iteration upon the current setup and considering the best options available. But the disadvantage of hybrid, you need to be monitoring the connectivity of the external source, the third party tools and other stuff. And best of breed is a combination of this both, and flexibility is more, no dependency on one size fit all solution one. It's very independent, and the maintenance, the disadvantage of this, the maintenance cost is very high. Keep this three word in your mind like best of suit, hybrid, and best of breed. The next slide I will explain in detail for the same. Now you have a project in your mind. You want to execute in the way of DevOps framework. You did all the experiments. The project plan is ready. So agile planning and collaboration. This is the team where we are all in the same phase. Once the team developing the solution based on the backlog or Jira board, the source code has been repository and version control will be placed by the developer. Once the repository versioning control is enabled, it passes on to the code build, and once the code build has been tested, it passes on to the testing strategy. The testing team has to do the penetration test, sanity test, all the tests related to this code and getting the outcome results in the build and test phase, and it passes on to the release and deploy. So this artifact repository is the second repository where the bound script code has been pushed over here, and once the artifact is verified with this, then it formally automated and it deployed to the software delivery process and software operation process. Now, as I said, for defining this tool, what are the three methods we followed? Best of suit, hybrid, and best of breed. For example, if I'm using Azure DevOps, I'm not using Jenkins, I'm not using Terraform, I'm not using any other open source tools for this kind of pipeline build. It's all single orchestrated way, then that is best of suit. For example, I'm using Azure DevOps end to end. That is best of suit. It's any product, not only Azure, could be AWS or it could be Google. If I'm using those kind of services end to end, that is best of suit. So it's all relying with the service based plan. And if you make hybrid, is a combination of two. For example, if I have a Jira, Bitbucket, Bamboo, and I'm going to connect the third party tool or my own tool. And again, it's interfaced with JFrog and Bamboo, and it connecting with Splunk and Jira. So hybrid is like combination of all, and it's performing the same functions: build, test, release, deploy, operation model. But I'm choosing the tools based on my orchestrated way. And best of breed is like it has a independent one. This is the best of breed is the common phase every organization is using. As you could see, Git, Jenkins, Nexus, and it's connecting with the Jira and Cucumber and deploy. Either it could be Octopus, it could be a Docker container, and it's connected with Stack and Jira. So this orchestration has been made in the three layers: best of suit, hybrid, and best of breed. So based on that, the tools has been evolved, and you have to choose the technology accordingly. Now I'm going to develop this application. I'm going to deploy this application. In this method means what are the best tools I have to choose. What is there is any reference is there. Based on this best of suit, you can take the list. What is the DevOps tools available in the market? And if I go to hybrid means what is the combination I can change? It's not predefined one. Bitbucket, Bamboo, JFrog is just a simple example. You can change the naming of the tool, which is very flexible for you. You have to do a trial and error multiple times and get the best outcome of it. So that is the hybrid one. And best of breed is like fixed term, but it will perform as it the same tools what they are meant for and the configuration level. Now the next one is DevOps and cloud go hands in hand. So this is the DevOps ways of working makes instrumental use of cloud automations. It's not only for on-premises or cloud. It's just a framework where you can adopt or where you can evolve or where you can improvise the way of goals. Now you know definitions, principles, and best practices, and based on that you are implementing these three into the operating system model: technology, process, and people. And based on the people, DevOps principle is incorporated in it and making two different teams. One is product owner, product and service, and another one is Scrum, business analyst, infrastructure engineer, operational engineers. So these two people are working and make the team is ready. Based on the team, we do the T-shaped factoring. Based on the T-shaped factoring, we identify the skill set and measuring their skill set from 1 to 5. And now we have the team is ready from the DevOps pool. And once the project is developing, and we need to identify the technology and tools. And once the tools is ready, now we are going to make where it's driven from. Either it's from on-premises side or is it from cloud, on whether we can do applicable the same framework continuously evolving into the different factors of domains. So DevOps and cloud go hands-on in it. It has three phases, like one is on-premises or hybrid or cloud. Then the continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deliverable, continuous operation is the phase. But what makes that continuous integrations driven is for Either you want to improve the application stack of cloud or on-premises, that is the source where the requirements brings for you to work in terms of DevOps environment. Now everything is lined. You can develop DevOps accelerate using automation principle that are applied in the cloud. DevOps method and tools required to platform able to change quickly. So you are not to be fixed into one thing. Whatever the things available in the requirements, the demand part, you know what is the framework is all about, what is the best practices and what is DevOps principle, how to define your team and project members. And if you know the technical scopes and technology is ready, then you try to compare with this thing with the existing demands. Okay, you want to develop the application or moving this application in one source to another, or you want to create the infrastructure as service. Then what could be the team will involved in this scope, who is involving more, whether developer scope is more, whether the operation scope is more. Based on these two phases, the plan will be executed according to the agile methodology, and it will driven into this continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and continuous operations towards the solution. So you got some fair idea about where we start and where we landed right now. And the operating system model, this is the very important stuff where the heart of demand and the requirements bring for DevOps framework to work. So operating system model has 3 stages. First one is technology target operating system model, and another one is DevOps practice and DevOps target operating model. The first one is technology. So technology in the sense, the technology in the box, the holistic frame to describe the governance structure of the technology organization and how it functions as an entity. For example, the product owner brings a lot of issues, brings a lot of business to work on for the service-based company. They will bring a lot of inputs. I have an application like this legacy-based application which is running very slow. I want to improve, or I want to change the application from the existing scope. I want to build the new scope for this kind of structure framework. So these are the technology operating system model or target operating system model where you can fine tune, improve or configure or change. So that will be taken as a center point. And for that particular changeover, what are the DevOps practices we know? So we know the DevOps practices. We have continuous integration, continuous monitoring, continuous deliverable, and continuous testing. In this two combination, we need to identify whether we could able to improvise the technology demands. So if you make the combination of these two, the DevOps target operating system model outline the governance structure. You know how to identify the DevOps principle, identify the people, and identify the metrics. What are the demands is required for this project, and how many business analysts is required, how many architect is required, how many operation engineer is required under the different skill set in terms of best of suit, hybrid, or best of things to do. So these are the layers you can inherit with the project scope, and you can identify the operating system model, how we can take this operating system model into deliverables. So these are the way the DevOps has been derived from the framework to principles, from the principles to practices. This practices makes the people connectivity. Once the people has formatted in the different skill set, they are make as a project team, and that team has to be focused into this target model. So this target operating model is the business requirement. For this business requirement, we formed one DevOps team like this in terms of following all the methodology and how this team has to be delivered. So this is the main objective for running the DevOps framework throughout the process. And the DevOps target operating model consists what, how, where, and who. First one is, this is also the repetitive model in a different way of governance in IT structure. Like 5W1H is one method to follow. So what means person and what service, what is the mission? How means capacity skills, funding and charging, process and functional integrations, metrics and KPIs and tooling. Where in the sense source of ecosystem or collaborative and locations and cultural work style. Who it's directly indirecting to organization structure, roles and responsibility, governance maintenance, or incentive rewards. So if you take this layer, your company has fit into these 4 layers, and you can identify what's supposed to do, how the target operating system model to be work for us in terms of execute and behaves. So this is the way we can break down the target operating system model. Based on this target operating system model, who are all involved over here? Person means people, technology, process. These 3 are driven based on the requirement, and it will split into 4 phases. Person, service, mission in the what phases, capacity, skill set, funding, charges, process and functional integration, metrics and KPI and tooling in a how, and where it's going to be work on it. Is it the source of ecosystem or collaborative locations and cultures and work style, and for whom it's good be gained for organization structure, roles and responsibility and governance mandate. So these are the main things. Now we have a overall view. What is DevOps? What is definition, principles, best practices, goal, benefits. If you connect all these things in this phrase, now in an organization, if you want to adopt a DevOps framework, and inside this DevOps framework, you form the team, and the team has been divided into multiple skill set, and the team is ready to work on continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, and continuous monitoring. When performing for what? The end result will be there is a target operating system model. For this operating system model, if you're using the DevOps framework, what are the benefits the organization can get, how the deliverables happen in a quality way in a less time of investments. So detailing the DevOps practice. Now this will be give a clarity for your things from the organization level, execution and behavior. These are the 3 key points in the governancing of organization. For that, if you implementing this DevOps capability, continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deliverable, continuous operation. So continuous integration, it could cover off system architect, development practices, development environment, source code and version control, automate code building. That is the scope for continuous integration. Continuous testing, test automation, test environment and data bug reporting and defect management and data security. These are the areas it covers from the continuous testing. And continuous delivering is the orchestration, release orchestration, deployment automation, configuration asset management, environment management, infrastructure automation, and continuous integration, continuous deployment metrics and tracking. And continuous operations comes under telemetry, logging, metrics, dashboard, self-service portal, instant response. So if you make this framework has been expanded towards the organization in all the scope, then it will be feasible to do based on the alignment of best practices and DevOps principles. So you can make target operating system model describes in a capacity way. These are the 3 hierarchy interfaced with organization execution behavior. It indirectly influenced with continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deliverable and continuous operations. And DevOps operating models differentiator. So as I said, organization, execute, behave. So if you take organization, these are the things is already predefined, like service orientation organization the people, venture capital, organization the work, source modeling. So these are the various types it impacts in terms of doing difference in target operating system model. What will be the impact of executions level, like redefine roles and responsibilities, iterate and frequency releases, speed up the work, improve interactions. But you cannot perform everything in DevOps framework. You can improve the quality of things based on the collaborative framework, but it will not done everything in every project across the organizations. It comes under life cycle, application life cycle process, application development process, and it comes under application uh, deployment process. But from the organization point of view, the impacts will be very high in terms of organizations level, executive level and behavior levels. So these are the 3 different forms available, but we cannot sure about how the DevOps can be involved in day-to-day activities and what are the implications it makes in a different operating system model across the organization point of view. So it's like a traditionally followed the operations to execute where it demands. It's not implementing all the scopes to improve the performance of overall quality. And how do we implement DevOps? So this is where we are going to do a test cases. Now, I assume we know what is DevOps framework, practices, principle. Based on that, we form the team, and there is two different team. One is product owner team, and another one is Scrum. And these two teams receiving the business model, and based on the business model, what are the things is revolved around process, people, technology, and we identify the application or any business model to develop for the experimentation way. And once the application is being developed, we know the expertise of operation engineer, developers, testers, and monitoring tools is readily available. Now we choose what is the best suit, is a best of bed hybrid. Those are the models also we referred. And now we are going to implement DevOps in the sense how we implement DevOps. So implement DevOps is once you aligned with all the phases from start to end, then you take one piece of application in hand or one piece of business scope, and the alignment will be the DevOps transformation journey in the larger organization. If you want to implement the larger organizations, the minimum time taken process, the standard approach for the transformation, it takes 2 to 3 years. But if you start the clear alignment and vision, create in 8 to 10 weeks. So what could be the planning process for this thing? Just an example, the standard things which is approach in this company. So alignment, vision, pilot, adopt, and scale and speed. So for what is alignment and vision is all about? Help articulate the vision, execution plan, and funding requirement in the short sprint. So everyone like team lead and sponsorship and co-leaderships from the client team, they organized and they prepare the plan for the vision, what we are going to do. So this is come from the product owner type. And once the things is ready and it moving to vision, pilot, MVP, target assistance. Like select the pilot to build MVP with the CI/CD pipeline to establish the model for rapidly identifying and launching the projects to propagate DevOps thinking into the practice quickly across the organizations. It takes 8 to 12 weeks. Once this pilot things is done, is each phase has a checkpoint. They will not go just like that to the next stages. So alignment, vision, pilot, adopt, and scale and speed. So this is the level of improvement where the vision has to be set. For that vision, prepare the pilot MVP, and once this done, once they achieved within this timeline, they will make the adaptability. Adaptability comes under establishing the central excellence of scaling DevOps capability, where the models has been driven and typically done in building operated transfer, that is BOT model we used to call it. Once this done, the scale and speed will be slowly evolved, and they will try to enhance to more in terms of approaches. Like that, they will build the scope where the DevOps framework has been implementing. So second one is co-create transformations. This is like what we see in the organization level, what, how, where, who. In that alignment vision, there is a one thing is image the future service, and what is the mission of service in the organization, what IT service and to whom is the service organization is going to deliver. So this is the alignment vision, what to be iterate in terms of phase. The first one is alignment vision is first phase, co-create transformation is the second phase, and adopt scalability in the third phase. What we have defined in in this phase, 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, and 8 to 24 months. So that alignment vision is taken care by image future of services in the service organization. So co-create transformation is a DevOps operating system model. Here, what we can deliver in terms of defining the full iterations. For example, a CI/CD pipeline for what are the tools is required, what are the technology is driven, and what is the target operating system model is defined, and what is the stack of this full alignment with the help of this both operations and development team, and what is the collaborative teams is looks like. So co-create transformation is like continuous build and implementing and defining itself. And once these two stages is done, the next one is adopt and scale. The adopt and scale phase is the very important phase. The scale the DevOps operating model and technology within the client organization depending on the transformation need. So whenever it requires, then the adopt and scale is improving the quality and is driving the two business of alignment and co-create transformation for the business models. So here we can implement the sequence of DevOps framework and we can execute the full stack view. You can see the end-to-end functionality in terms of process. Okay, we are using DevOps framework and we know the vision, we know the target model, and we know the time scale for it. And once the time scale is fixed based on this DevOps framework and best practices and principle, we have a team, and what we are developing, we have the target operating system model is available. Based on the target operating system model, we choose the tools, technology, process, and we driven and we execute the process towards adopt and scale methodology. So this is the co-create transformation methodology from the DevOps models. So the main thing, what are the challenges of implementing DevOps? As generally we used to say, skill set is very high demand. People used to say, I'm expertise in Jenkins, I'm expertise in code development, .NET, Visual Studio, and I'm expertised in Ansible and Purp and Shepherd. But if you orchestrate for the company requirement, it's very difficult to form the team, and you cannot give the cross-platform training for everyone, because you need to spend a lot of training time for them to upskill their existing knowledge, and you can align with the DevOps framework, and you can align with the target operating system model what you are going to driven for the respective MVP time periods. So skill challenge is one of the main thing, and the second one is scarce talent. Some people's skills in your organizations can't be replicated for every DevOps team. And the other one is DevOps will not compensate for potential lack of responsibility in your organization, because you cannot play a role of everything under DevOps framework, but you play a role what define it's for in terms of tools and technologies. So lack of overview in the sense the progress and stability are spread across the team, and overview may be like, because we cannot metrics what development is doing, what operation is doing, because everybody is focusing on target operating system model to deliver. For that, everybody is working on its own to finding the solution or preparing the solution or developing the solution for the model, and we cannot track in lack of overview. And dev slowdown operations may hamper progress in development. Sometimes we cannot predict the timelines. We assume, okay, this project model will deliver within a month of time, but it can extend it more than 2 months or 3 months. Sometimes it's going beyond it. And self-organization challenges. So clear service level we cannot met. You cannot met any service level based structure for this kind of models. So that is one of the challenging thing. And management challenge, DevOps can mean management challenging for team leads. You cannot control the team in terms of the process and the functions, what they are delivering, what they are preparing, and what they are orchestrating. So these are the implementation challenges from the DevOps perspective. So key lessons learned, as we could cover up, people, process, technology, and operating system model is the key. And we know very well about DevOps principles and DevOps practices. So these are the three main phase of DevOps that will derive the organization in such a way that to form how we can deliver any objective application lifecycle management or microservice management to improve the functional quality of speeds between the phases, to improve the quality of things inside the project's deliverables. So this is how the DevOps frameworks to manage. So key lesson learned from the people perspective, you cannot buy DevOps because there is no product for it. It's just a framework, and it could work in a collaborative formation. And management support is crucial. It's involved sometimes the DevOps transformation, sometimes it be start and stop, and when you stop and if you want to resume it back, it will be very difficult to resume it back, because it's challenging the multi-skill set and topologies, team topologies combinations, and you have to driven the target operating system model. So breakdown silos means breakdown silos not only between departments but also between organization. Assigning champions from the client, ensure the support of the client can be accelerated by having a champions from their side spreading DevOps culture and principles. So this key learned lessons, what is in my point of view, it has so many phases. Whatever we are covering today, it's like a very fast pace. It has more, and it has more integrations lines. Even if you know the outline, what is DevOps framework does, how it works in terms of this framework, how the team has been articulated or formed, and what are the metrics they've measured, and how the team is incorporate for the DevOps framework to deliver for the business models. and it will be executed such a way that the service-based companies to connect with the DevOps teams. They have collaborative things to deliver for the application stacks. But what is the main objective for driving this? People, process, technology, operating system model. This four phases indirectly depends on DevOps principle, DevOps best practices. And one client example. So client example is like we are working on a parcel delivery based company. So we took our client, and some of the clients said we want to develop this particular area. We want to make some software delivery life cycle in this thing. Then first you get the details from them, and you can just write up a small thing in four phases like process, technology, organization and culture, and data. So you know the operating system model, keep the operating system model at the center, and you can drive these four heads, and you can identify whether it comes under DevOps scope or not. And before comes under DevOps scope or not, do we have a DevOps framework is already available in the pilot phase? And do we have the right skill set people available in the DevOps pool? And if all ready to set, then if you receive the business model like this, design and implementing a governance structure for any mailing based service based company, then you can cut short what needs to be done and what are the requirements. They have the target operating system model, and how we are going to improve or improvise their process or organization and cultures by using this process, organization and culture, technology and data. So if you driven these four phases, people, process, technology and data into this operating system model by using this DevOps framework, then the client gatherings each phases, then product owner, architect and business analyst, scrum masters, ops team, developer will all include into this same four phases, and they will start delivering the process one to one. So I'm not explaining this process in detail because there is running short of time. I'm moving on to the next one. So client two example is like CI/CD pipeline for banking platform. So this is the best of best suit hybrid model and standard one. So how we choose the combination of best and why we choose these tools in terms of Azure DevOps, why we choose SonarQube, why we choose Nexus, and why we choose AWS to deploy this thing. So it's a combination of these two things is in a hybrid mode. This is also a required things. For example, if I want to deploy an application to the specific change for the web-based things or web-based application monitoring for continuous basis, we will compare the existing example. This is the business model we choose, and we drive this process. We acknowledge that we can deliver this based on that technology part. We are selecting the technology and we are orchestrate. This is one formation of technology tools we use to deliver this, and why we choose these things. We are done number of experimenting, trial and error with the CI/CD pipelines. And the next one is testing automations for banking application. So testing applications is the main scope. Most of the people is not cover up into that, and testing is very important key structure. They have the main focus on testing in terms of code level, integration level and acceptance level. So their main deliverables concentrating into the integrations and then acceptance. So after that, it pass on to the non-functional testings and performance security checks and disaster recovery for the operation side. And it goes to make a complete documentations for review. And once the test case is done, and it's back to the production go live. So far what we were discussed in terms of DevOps framework, what is DevOps and what is a definition for it, what is a DevOps principle and what is DevOps practice. Based on these three, where it directly infusing technology, process, and people, and operating system model. These are the important key terminologies to drive your organization, or you want to start up the projects to make things ready. But in other phase, after you drive the project, once the project is the startup, then the development team start working on the dev for building the code and working on the development towards the test phase of orchestrated tools such as Jenkins, Git, Jenkins, Spinnaker, like this. Once the tool has been orchestrated and delivering in this method, this formation comes under CI/CD form. This is under the functional level. But overall organization level, continuous integration, continuous monitoring, continuous testing comes under the practice level. So there is two different things. People used to work on DevOps engineer in a project, so they are like operation engineer. They very much care about the code deployment and monitoring the process and giving the feedback, continuous feedback looping towards the developer. And if there is any issues then and there, they'll fix it there itself and continue the workflow as it is for the achieving the application that lifecycle deliverables. So these are all comes under functional level. But overall, what is this session replicates? If you know DevOps framework under this best practices and principle, and it replicates operating system model. The operating system model consists of three phases: process, people, technology, and how these two combined to elevate your existing business scope into automation stack. This is all about the DevOps framework. And I hope I have covered all the slides today. And in case anything, if I missed out, I have done something very wrong or something, please apologize. So I think my way of deliverables is completed at the moment in terms of DevOps. Thank you.
Uh, thanks, Sandil. So I would like to have a couple of add-on information. So whenever you go any DevOps project, first try to break down the components as a delivery point of view. So if you first you list down what exactly you want. Either you want to have some web application deployment, and in that what monitoring you want, what stage you want to store it in the source code plus the compiled application. So plus you need to have some collaboration tool to notify and trigger. So if you list down this tool expectation, not tools, just expectation, then map the current one. So there is already I wrote a detailed blog. Probably I can share with you those who joined here. I have all your details. So I will create the information in the Cloudnloud LinkedIn group. So I will publish it by tonight. So you can, whenever you are free, go and check and utilize those links. I already released this 7 stages also in my YouTube channel with more example. So that is a way those who are trying to start or adapt any project or any governance, it will be easy for you to. And I seen there are a couple of hands raised. Those who really want to have any queries, please feel free to raise your hand. I will give you access to unmute.